first item on the agenda is a presentation on community policing program by Chief of Police Vern Knuckles and Haley Leonard Saunders, Director of Public Relations and Development with Access Health System. Okay, looks like, is the chief here or Haley?
I know the chief's going to join us.
Okay.
He might just need a minute to jump on.
Okay, we'll wait for a few minutes till the chief is there. How are you, Haley?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Mayor, the chief's on now.
Anytime.
Mayor, Chief Rucker appears to be on now.
Okay. See, we're waiting. Okay. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. How are you, Mayor?
I'm fine.
Good. Sorry, I had somebody in my office. I was trying to get that all taken care of, but I made it.
We understand. We called this meeting to order, and I announced the first item on the agenda, and it's a presentation on community policing program by Chief of Police Vern Knuckles and Haley Leonard Saunders, Director of Public Relations and Development with Access Health System. Go ahead, Chief.
I guess what this is just kind of to inform council of a program that we're kind of in the initial stages of working on. It's a community response program that kind of mirrors a couple of programs in the country, a CAHOOTS program that is out of Portland, and then a relatively new program in Denver called the STAR program. And what it is it's a program that goes around and kind of deals with different crises, mental health, depression, poverty, homelessness, substance abuse. And what it kind of designed to do is relieve some of the pressure off of law enforcement. But also it gives individuals that are in crisis or in need of assistance, somebody to call. So typically the team is comprised of a EMT, emergency medical technician, and a mental health crisis worker. They're dispatched through the communication center. For instance, if somebody's having a mental health crisis, they could call into dispatch. Dispatch could triage that call to determine if it's safe for this team to go to, and then the team could respond rather than law enforcement. And then connect that person to the appropriate resources and kind of fill that gap that law enforcement's been filling on non-criminal calls for service. You know, intoxicated people in the park, mental health crisis where there's no weapons or violence or anything like that, homelessness. So we're kind of excited. I think there's a need in our community to kind of bridge that gap. And so that's kind of the program we're working on. And Haley may have some more detail about it too.
Sure. So we're working as a group with Montezuma County, the Mancos Marshal's Office, Cortez Fire, Bridge Shelter, Southwest Memorial. And the group has decided that we will work towards getting this program up and running January 1st of 2022. There are a lot of details that go into forming a program like this, because it's essentially a fourth pillar of the emergency response system. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, everything from PNPs to raising funds, training, hiring, and creating this completely new program. We at Axis have, we received some funding that allowed us to create a part-time position that will be dedicated completely to program development and management just for this program and the co-responder program that we're working with Durango PD. So we feel really confident that we'll be able to help facilitate getting this program up and running along with the steering committee by January of 22. So it will not be an Axis run program. It's going to be a community-based program, and that's something that the steering committee will figure out along the way as we get in the weeds and figure out all the details. But we're really excited, and initial Cahoots has 30 years of experience with a program like this, and it's worked really well in their community. And the STAR program in Denver, just in their first 6 months, I think of the 1,100 calls that they went on, 0 of those calls required police backup, which is pretty big. So when we looked at initial numbers, we anticipate a minimum of I believe it was 600, Chief, calls that Montezuma County receives for welfare checks, substance use, mental health calls, those kind of things would be dispatched. This team would be dispatched as opposed to law enforcement. So it's pretty exciting. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question, Haley or
Sure.
Chief. There's a lot of talk about defunding the police, and that term doesn't ring true to me. It makes it sound like you're taking money away from the police department, but I understand the idea behind defund the police is kind of like this program here, where you're trying to shift some of the work off the police officers and law enforcement duties onto ideas like this, where their mental health and the public intoxication and non-violent crimes. Is that accurate, Haley or Chief?
Well, if I could, Haley, I think, when you talk about, mental health or substance abuse and things like that, and being law enforcement, my opinion is those are not law enforcement calls generally, because it's not illegal to have a mental illness, and it's not illegal to be addicted to substance. But law enforcement over the years has been thrust into those calls to fill that gap. And I think society as a whole is they're wanting law enforcement to pull out of some of this stuff. And I think that's great, because I don't think law enforcement should be involved in those calls, because it's not against the law. It's not what law enforcement's designed to do. So, I mean, it's not really defunding us and moving. It's literally pulling us out of calls for service that we don't belong in normally.
And with this program, Mayor, we are going to seek outside funding, and hopefully, in the next year, Council can find a way to support the program once we have a better idea of, once we have a better idea of what we need and how it will run. So the way that we're seeing it doesn't, there would be no defunding of the PD. We'd be looking for outside funding and other sources to contribute to this program to support them. And for calls that they still need to go on, as backup or when the team's off duty, we anticipate in the next year we'll be doing some intensive training and figuring out how to better support them, so they feel like they know what their resources, law enforcement knows what their resources are when the team is off duty. Sorry, it got a little loud here.
And Mayor, I would anticipate, our police officers would kind of co-respond with this team just to provide security. We just wouldn't be the primary agency dealing with those calls, but we would still be there to ensure safety of everybody.
Right. And the calls would come in through the dispatch center? Okay.
Yes,
Yep,
and
through 911. So,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead. We've found that the dispatch from other co-responder programs and programs like this have really robust evaluation systems, so they can make sure that the calls are appropriate for the team that's responding. So they wouldn't go out on any calls that there was a crime in process or a weapon involved or anything where law enforcement really should be the primary responder. So that's a lot of training also that would have to be incorporated with the dispatch center.
Okay. And is there a dollar amount that you're seeking for this funding?
Yeah, so in order to run two teams 7 days a week, and this is not 24-hour coverage, none of the models that we've seen are 24-hour coverage. We're looking at around $500,000 a year for our initial year. That cost will go down. There's just some initial startup costs that we'll have to incur. We could also run a model that would be around 300,000. So it really depends on, how we want to run the pilot. We could run a small pilot and kind of ramp our way up depending on how much funding that we end up with. And we'll have to start talking to funders and see what we can come up with. And hopefully there'll be some good programs from the state and maybe the feds in the next year that we can start pursuing.
Okay. Is there a amount from the city of Cortez that have targeted or have in mind?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Not at this time. We just wanted to let you all know what was in the works.
Yeah.
Because you might have seen we're working on a similar program in Durango, which will be a co-responder, a clinician, and an officer in the car together. But Montezuma County is just so different than Durango. We felt like this care model with an EMT and a clinician was a much better fit for our rural area and just the way the departments work together. So it's more just to let city council know what's happening, and that way you can feel comfortable reaching out to me or the chief over the coming year as we move forward.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate it being a city, focused on the city, or would it be a county, kind of a countywide Montezuma program that you'd be working with the city, city police officers, as well as the county sheriffs?
We see it as a
We're really
county.
hoping that it will be countywide.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Haley.
Oh, we're really hoping that it'll be countywide.
Okay.
Sorry, Vernon, I keep cutting you off.
No, that's
I
fine.
think I have a delay. Ideally, we can run it countywide, and that's why having them in a separate unit will work best. And that way they're dispatched through 911 and they can be where they need to be, no matter what the agency is that would receive that call.
Haley and Vern, I have a question about the team that would make this up. So have agencies already promised to use staff hours for this, or do you have to create whole new positions and hire people for this?
So we'll have to hire, Access has dedicated a program manager to help with the program development itself, because that's really time intensive. I'm also involved in it, but can't spend all of my hours on it. So we've dedicated and we're paying for the startup cost for development. And then we will have to, it will be new staff. So a completely new EMT position, most likely 2.5 FTE, and then 2.5 clinicians as well. So additional clinicians. And we know that it's going to take a special person or type of personality to want to do this type of program. So that's something that we'll also be able to figure out over the course of the year, do some ride-alongs and really engage with law enforcement to make sure they're comfortable with the clinician or potential candidate, and really find the right fit.
Chief, did you have a comment? Chief, did you want to add anything?
No, Mayor, I think Haley kind of touched on it, on yeah, everything.
Okay. See, I understand there's programs in Portland and Denver similar to this program.
There are these programs, we're kind of seeing them, they're popping up kind of all over. I think everybody's kind of recognized the need to do something a little different. But the ones that are kind of working, the Cahoots model out of Portland has been around a long time. So we've been kind of focusing on it just because of how successful it's been for so long. And then Denver here in Colorado, we kind of like their program as well. Plus they've been working it for a little bit. I think Aurora just stood one up. It's relatively new. I haven't researched it a whole lot, but they're Durango's working on a Coresponder model. So agencies across the state and country are looking into this type of program to help with getting services to people.
Yeah, it sounds like a program whose time has come.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's why we wanted to kind of at least let council know that we're thinking about things and how to improve the community and the services that law enforcement, EMS, and mental health can provide the community. So a lot of times people don't realize, what's going on. So we felt it was just good to get in front of council and let you guys know that these things are in our mind and we're working towards some type of solution. We're just early in the stages, but we felt it was important to let you guys know.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Haley and Chief. We appreciate that information. We'll definitely look into it.
Great. Thank you all. Appreciate you. Give me a call or an email if there's additional follow-up questions.
Okay, will do. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
You bet. And just real quick, we have some stuff on the Denver Star model and Cahoots that I could email to Linda if you guys are interested in looking at that.
Yeah, I'd like to see something. Send it to Linda.
Okay, I'll send it to her and have her send it out to the council.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is a presentation on Rural Jumpstart Program by Laura Lewis Marquino, Executive Director of Region 9.
Hello. Yes, I wasn't sure I was on next. I apologize. Thank you so much for making time today. In your packet, I believe there's a memo that talks a little bit about the program. But in a nutshell, this is one of the few programs that the Colorado Office of Economic Development provides as an opportunity for rural counties. And the county has to decide to participate before any of the municipalities are even eligible. And Montezuma County did re-up their resolution within the last month. As history, this incentive was approved by the Colorado legislature back in, I believe it was 2015, and only 24 counties throughout the state are even eligible, and we have only 12 participating. The goal is basically to get businesses that are relocating into Colorado to relocate to rural areas and not the Front Range. That was the whole purpose of this incentive. It provides significant tax benefits for those relocating companies, they have to apply through the state. It's also monitored by the Colorado Department of Revenue because of the tax benefits. They can be denied by the state. They have to meet strict standards. In particular, they have to pay living wages for their employees, and they have to hire at least 5 new employees. They can't just bring in, 20 people and get the benefits. They also, just so you know, as a government, if you chose to pass a resolution, you can adapt it to what you would like to do. You could waive property tax, not sales tax. You could do everything. You can add to it. And I believe you also have access to your previous resolution. You also participated initially. The reason that these resolutions are getting re-upped is at the last legislative session, they made changes to the program. And the change primarily was the original program, you had to be an unduplicated business in the state of Colorado. So a relocating company that came into Colorado that located in Montezuma, Cortez, wherever, had to be a completely brand new business in terms of what they provided as a product and service. Obviously, that wasn't very successful. I think we had 3 in the state, and they all ended up in Grand Junction, darn it. But regardless, what they did now is it has to be a non-duplicated business in the surrounding counties. So if a business comes to Montezuma and there is no existing business in La Plata, in your surrounding counties, then that could be eligible. Also, you have veto power as a government. So if it's a chemical plant, and they meet all the criteria, you can say no. You can pick businesses that fit with what you want in your community. So just know that as well. What I don't know is that, for example, if the county has approved those businesses, you could possibly have a business that locates in the county that the city would not like, and the city would only have veto power in terms of the city limits. Right now, we have our 4 surrounding counties around La Plata that are re-upping their Jumpstart resolutions. So they are 4 of the 12 in the state. It's just something we've pushed as another tool in the toolbox. I'm not saying it's the best or worst program, but it is something that rural communities can market and utilize to bring in unduplicated and new businesses.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea to bring in some new business in this area. It sounds like a good program. We can get a tax incentive for these companies to come into Cortez or Montezuma County.
And if you have any questions, I tried to give a real kind of broad overview and hit the highlights or the possible controversial pieces.
Laura, this is Councilwoman Yazzie. I think this is a great program. Just like as I was reading through like the summary of it, I got to thinking and wondering if there, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. And I've also emailed program director for this Rural Jumpstart.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious if there's a program that exists that does those tax breaks for businesses that might be duplicative, but are critical, like in a critical industry. So for example, I guess more specifically for me, it would be around childcare. Like if somebody wanted to come in and open up a childcare facility or whatever, is there a program that will give them tax breaks for a couple of years so that they can get going? Understanding that if people want to move to work or are already in that community and don't have childcare, then like, how are they actually going to be able to work?
Great. Well, I have 2 answers to your question. One, this Rural Jumpstart truly they're looking for non-duplicated businesses because they don't want to put any existing business under that. I mean, that's kind of the primary goal. They also don't want communities recruiting from other communities. So that's why they say outside Colorado. You know, they don't want, you know, La Plata, you know, taking companies from Montezuma because they can offer an incentive, that type of thing. In terms of what you're talking about, critical businesses in Montezuma, and I'm happy to talk with you offline. All of Montezuma is an enterprise zone, which is a designation the state gives to distressed communities, and it provides state tax credits to those businesses just for doing business in those counties. So any business could possibly get tax credits depending on the type of business. There's different types of tax credits, but one is for creating jobs. And one of the tax credits is for investing in your business, you know, buying office equipment or manufacturing equipment or whatever it may be. And so it does not specify the type of business, if that's at least helpful.
Yes, thank you. I'd love to chat a little bit more about that offline.
Sure.
Laura, I have a question about, so when you say it can't be a repeat business for the region, is there any way we can determine that? Because I feel like Montezuma County could benefit from businesses that may already exist in La Plata County.
It has to be a company coming in from outside of the state. So they have to be new and relocating, not like La Plata moving to Montezuma. But in terms of the
services, yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the non-duplicated services, they just don't want them to compete within the same market is basically what the idea is. And the state does investigate. So I'll get inquiries every once in a while saying, hey, we have a rural jumpstart county. One example, there is a wallboard company outside of Montrose Grand Junction that what they make the material out of is hemp. And so it doesn't rot if it gets wet, like, you know, wallboard can, and that was considered a non-duplicated business. So they got approved. But if there was another company, say in Eastern Colorado, that wasn't pilfering on their market, that's okay now.
Okay. Any other questions from council?
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
They already answered what I was going to ask on the county and the city part. So thanks.
So we're not currently a part of the program anymore. Did ours
Yes,
expire?
you did renew the resolution. So meaning the county renewed
okay.
yes. And so that's why the county is now participating, and we're just checking in with municipalities to see if they want to participate. And that's only so that if a business comes into the area, they're more likely to pick a community that, you know, is participating. And I will say, since 2015, we've had inquiries. We have never had a company that has moved anywhere based on the unduplicated business in the state. And we're hopeful that now, kind of making that a little more flexible, that, you know, we will have some interest.
Yeah, maybe 2020 will be the year.
I'm going for 2021, but no.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
presentation.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is update on the Southwest Health Alliance Program with Monique de Gregorio, Director. Sorry if I chewed that name. Monique, are you there?
Mike, I do not see that she signed on. I do know that she received an email to be invited, but I don't see her on here.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure why.
Okay. We'll, if she shows up later, we'll address her issues. So we'll skip ahead to the next item on the agenda. It's we're a little bit ahead. It's a presentation on water issues. And there's several items that the staff are going to speak on. The Director of Public Works, Phil Johnson, the Water Superintendent, Richard Landreth, Senior Water Operator, Randy Hunt, and City Engineer, Chad Hill. Welcome, gentlemen. We appreciate your being here, and thank you for sharing this knowledge and information with us.
Good evening, Honorable
Before
Mayor
we
and
get to
members of the City Council. Go ahead.
I do see Monique on here now.
Oh. I'm not seeing her. Monique? Sorry, Phil.
No problem.
Phil,
It was on here.
can we put you on hold for a few minutes? Thank you, Phil. Okay, Monique, thank you for being with us tonight. I just wanted to announce again that this is an update on the Southwest Health Alliance program, and you're the director. Thank you, Monique.
So this is Nan Reuter. Monique sent me, I'm with Monique and she sent me the Zoom link or this link. So do you know if she can use the same one?
I believe so.
Okay, wonder where she is. Wait just a second. I'll send her a note and ask her. Oh, there she is. She's down there.
Hi, Nan.
Hello, Monique.
There she is. Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
Hi.
Thank you for being here tonight. We're looking forward to your presentation on the Southwest Health Alliance program.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the time to be able to discuss what the progress of the Southwest Health Alliance has been. And my name is Monique DeGiorgio. I'm the executive director of the Local First Foundation. I would say that as you're considering what Nan and I are going to present tonight, there's three different ways you can look at it. One is, as the city of Cortez, so on behalf of the people that live in Cortez. I think another is on behalf of the business community that is in Cortez. And then I'd say broader in terms of the county, Montezuma County, and I'd love to chat a little bit at the end of our presentation on how we can get the word out. Can you remind me how much time we have so that we do not go over?
Okay, I'll remind you.
Okay, so 15, 20 minutes? I mean, we won't
15
talk.
minutes, I believe.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. So we'll just start now with our presentation. So just as a reminder on where the Southwest Health Alliance really came from, we are at the Local First Foundation, and we started first in La Plata County and then realized that really from a regional perspective, healthcare needs to be addressed across the county border. But we're a nonprofit organization, and our business community, the local independent businesses in La Plata County, were really telling us how extraordinarily expensive healthcare is and how that's affecting, the business community in Durango and La Plata County. So we conducted some focus groups and came up with some next steps and recommendations, one of which included looking at shared pooling options to try to bring the cost of healthcare down. We did that in partnership with the Durango Network, which is healthcare practitioners so that we would be informed by the healthcare practitioners themselves. Really what it's grown into is a regional model with volunteers like Nan that have health expertise beyond just La Plata County, but Montezuma, Dolores, and San Juan. We currently now are working within the Local First Foundation. So just keep in mind, as we talk a lot about health insurance premiums and carriers and all of that, that we are basically the voice of the local community. So we're here to represent you and the rest of the community. The really good news since we met in Cortez, which I don't know, John could probably tell us, I've lost track. I think it was early, it might've been about a year ago. It was a big group of people. We have some pretty incredible progress to be able to share, which is that across the board, our efforts with the Southwest Health Alliance kind of entering into the healthcare marketplace, so to speak, having everybody come to the table and look at costs across all the different sectors in healthcare. We are on average seeing premiums come down by 35% in the 4-county region, which is a really staggering number. At first we thought 5–10%. Do we want to promise that much? You know, we're all happy if our healthcare doesn't go up, but it stays the same. So these are some pretty awesome numbers that we're very excited to be able to share. That's of course any existing carrier, any existing plan in the 4-county region. In addition to that, I will explain the new carrier that now is here working in our region. It's not new to Colorado, but it's new to our region. Bright Health. That Bright Health and Southwest Health Alliance are the least expensive in terms of premiums in the marketplace. And Nan's going to tell you more about the actual plan. In addition to, of course, being able to save money, it's very important, kind of the plan design and what we're offering to the community. And this is locally crafted based on the input that we've heard in this region. So that's kind of the short good news. Just as a reminder, even though we're going to be talking a lot about health insurance plans, that we are an active nonprofit voice of the community on behalf of the businesses, on behalf of the local governments and individuals. And we work overall on health literacy and to provide affordable, accessible healthcare. So premiums is one huge way we can achieve that. It's not the only goal that we have as an organization. And we're really a steering committee of the Local First Foundation, which is the nonprofit that I run. Really important to everything that we do. I think myself included, healthcare feels kind of like a black box where it's hard to know how, as a community, we can make a difference. You know, how do we understand the premium price that keeps going up? Like, what really reflects what's going on there? So we made a very, very big effort to bring transparency, accountability into that process. We actually spent a good 4 or 5 months collecting data for all 4 counties so that we could say, hey, here's what we're seeing in terms of costs. Why is it so expensive? And that data, I think, is what allowed us to bring partners to the table and have that accountability and transparency. And we always start with these values because I really do think that they are what allowed the community to be heard and to see some of the results that we're sharing today, which are pretty exciting. We have volunteer steering committee members across La Plata County, as well as the 4 counties, and healthcare practitioners as well. So Peak Health Alliance really has a provider advisory group. So we're making sure we're not working in a black box, that we ask the healthcare providers themselves how to make sure that we are operating, you know, on behalf of not only the consumers and the business community, but the healthcare practitioners. Right now, we're pleased to say that Southwest Health Alliance will be available in the 4 counties that I mentioned. Remember that Peak Health Alliance started in Summit County. So when we came up with the next step to form a healthcare purchasing cooperative, we found Peak Health Alliance, which started in Summit County about 1.5 years ago. They decided that with all the effort, and I think over $500,000 that it took for them to start, that they wanted to help other, especially smaller counties, engage, because not every little county on the Western Slope is able to bring those kinds of resources to bear to be part of a health care purchasing cooperative. So Peak Health Alliance started in Summit, and now they also will be operating in 2021 in Lake and Grand County. To be really clear on what Peak Health Alliance is versus what we are, Peak Health Alliance is a healthcare purchasing cooperative. It's enabled by state statute, which is kind of cool. I'm sure not every state has that statute. And the reason it's in there is to say, just like an agricultural cooperative, we should, as a community, have the ability to band together and bring costs down, you know, whether it's agricultural equipment or whether it's healthcare, which I think is pretty cool in terms of where it comes from. Know that Peak is the cooperative themselves. Southwest Health Alliance, we represent the community like you, to make sure that what we're doing down here represents our community voice. So Peak Health Alliance is not an insurance company. Bright Health is the insurance carrier that we've chosen. And all the existing healthcare pieces like brokers and consultants, that all stays in the picture. This traditional model kind of shows how maybe we as consumers feel in the healthcare system. We're at the end of a long line of discussions and negotiations between carriers, providers, hospitals, and then we see it, you know, in our premiums. What Peak Health Alliance and Southwest Health Alliance does really takes that model, turns it on its head. All the pieces are there, but it basically integrates the community voice into the whole discussion, starting at the very top here, as you can see, collecting data, talking to the community, bringing that information on healthcare costs to the healthcare providers, to the hospitals, getting right in the middle of those negotiations and asking for that transparency. Then what we see at the end of the day is a very different result. It's not easy to get there, but it's a different result. So what we've accomplished, as I mentioned, across the board. So if currently you're with one of the carriers here, whether it's Anthem, Rocky Mountain, or Friday, we expect on average, depending upon, you know, your age and more about you personally and what you choose for your health insurance, you're going to see those rates come down across the board on average 35%. Additionally, we're going to see Southwest Health Alliance and Bright Health be the most competitive in the marketplace. And the most important thing is that our community knows what Southwest Health Alliance represents and understands that now is the time to shop local. It could be very easy to just be like, hey, my premiums went down, I'll just kind of stay with where I'm at. That's definitely an option, but we've brought like new carriers into the marketplace. We want the community to better understand what we have to offer and make sure you shop just like you would for anything else, and educate yourself as a consumer, as a business owner, or as the town council to better understand what's available to you. These logos here, Southwest Health Alliance is the organizing arm, Bright Health is that insurance carrier that bears the risk, and Peak Health Alliance is the cooperative. So we kind of know it can get confusing. It's a lot, you know, all on one page, but there's different pieces of the puzzle that all of these partners are bringing to the table. One really important thing that we did was try to be as inclusive as possible. And I want to personally tell you that we worked very hard so that every hospital, every provider that wanted to work with us could work with us. And we're really pleased to say that Animas Surgical Hospital and Mercy Regional Medical Center are both in the network. I'm sorry to say that Southwest Memorial is not in the network. And I want you to know that we are open to that at any time. And that I was really interested in speaking with you directly tonight because, you know, we have some concerns that the local hospital is not engaged and that at any point that could change. And I want to make sure that if you have questions about that, that we can address that. Because again, one of our very, very core values is that if a healthcare provider wants to work with us, we're open to it. Because when we say local, it's so interesting, right? It's like, well, regionally, that's local. Durango is more local than what in Montezuma County. So in Montezuma County, if there's an individual living in Montezuma County or Cortez, your most local hospital is Southwest Memorial. We want to support that. So I really hope we can take a few minutes to tease that out tonight because of all the communities that we're working with, this is the most important impact to your community. And we want to just get out there very, very clearly what we can do as a community to support, you know, basically Montezuma County and your local hospital. We can pause there and take more questions on that. What Nan is going to do is talk to you more about the plan design and the rest of the slides.
So any questions?
I guess
Yeah, so just to clarify, Monique, this is Councilwoman Yazzie. So just to clarify, if somebody were to get on the Bright Health plan, they wouldn't be able to use it at Southwest. They would have to use it at either ASH or Mercy.
yes, except that in any case of an emergency emergency care is always covered. Nan might be able to tell you more. Out of network rates versus in network rates sometimes are interesting. So even if it was out of network, the cost may not be a lot more, but do know that any kind of emergency care is covered. And Nan, would you add more to that in terms of what an individual in Montezuma County might experience?
Yeah, I would leave it at that. So with emergencies, it is covered, but really what Monique's talking about here is that, you know, the door, I would say, is still open for the local hospital to be in the network. You know, Bright has certainly talked with them. So, you know, a shout out to for any of you that could have any influence on that. I think you see that's our message as well. So we've had a ton of success with the other providers, of course, and we're still adding every day to the Bright Health Network.
I was pretty excited when I first saw this because I was in a previous role. I was helping people get insured through the marketplace. So it was really exciting to see this project come together and have like this community level approach. I guess I'm curious because there is a lot of talk about the ACA. How does that influence like your guys's work and what you're trying to do with Bright? Have you guys had conversations around that? What would be the plan if like the ACA was revoked? How would that influence your plan?
Yeah, if the ACA was revoked, yeah, great question. So we know the Supreme Court is going to hear this. I think it's the next week. That'll be the third or fourth time that the ACA has gone in front of the Supreme Court. We are really still, I say, going full steam ahead, assuming that the ACA will not go away. I personally have, you know, worked in the health insurance industry my entire career, which is 30 years now. And most of what I hear in the industry is that we really don't think it'll be completely thrown out. Perhaps the individual mandate penalty would come back. You know, that was set up as a tax. Basically, that was the first read that the Supreme Court had. So perhaps there would be a reenactment, if you will, of the penalty, and actually, you know, have folks have to pay the penalty if they're not signed up for coverage somewhere. That's kind of what we're, you know, thinking. And I tell you, insurance companies don't want the ACA to go away. I mean, certainly there's a lot more enrolled now than there was, and all of their systems are set up for this. We have the state insurance exchanges where people go to actually buy their coverage on the marketplace. So, you know, could it happen? I think personally, I'm thinking 90% chance it won't. And certainly depends on the outcome of the election as well.
Dan, is it fair to say though, even if there were some changes that at least for 2021, what we're talking about will stand?
Yeah, great. Yes, I do think so. You know, some would tell you that if the law was actually thrown out, it could be immediate, no longer. Now, even if that were the case, insurance companies can still decide, hey, we still want to offer these plans. And the states actually approve the plans. So, you know, they have 10 essential health benefits. That's all in the ACA. So it would really take, you know, quite an enormous feat to actually say, hey, everything's breaking down and there's no offer. So I think for sure, you know, 2021 is very safe with that, no matter what happens. And like I said, insurance companies don't want these to go away. Perhaps there will be other ways to change the products, you know, if it would get thrown out, but that doesn't mean they have to stop offering the products at all.
Thank you. And I just got one last thing, and you might be jumping into it here in a moment, but I'll go in and I like knowing that this topic was coming up, I went in and just played a little bit in the quick plan finder tool and did like some sandbox stuff. And I just wanted to know if your plans through Bright, are they impacted at all or like influenced by cost share reductions or through the other thing I'm
absolutely APTC
right now. Yeah, there you go. Applied premiums.
Yeah. Yeah, the APTC. So that's I get what it stands for, but basically it's a premium credit. So that's for folks that make up to 400% of the federal poverty level. they're actually credits for the premium. So the premiums that we're going to show you here, think of those as the highest cost that they would see. So some of them will have a premium credit of 50, 60, 75%, or even close to zero, depending on what they make income-wise. Then the other one is the cost share reduction. That's what you mentioned, the CSR. So what that does is it actually buys down a high deductible. So if someone would choose a silver plan with, say, a $2,500 deductible, that deductible might be almost completely erased, also depending on income. So those absolutely apply to this because these are ACA plans. That is for on exchange, and we do have several plans that are off exchange. So I think it'll be helpful if we go through the slides here, the next 5 or 6 here. So we have quite a variety of plans, and this just gives you the highlights of what you would see. For those of you that are familiar with the Affordable Care Act plans, they're labeled bronze, silver, gold, platinum. We don't have a platinum product, but they're labeled from what would be the lowest premium and the highest deductibles, if you will, or cost shares, as we call them, to the lowest. So the gold is the richest plan. So if you think about metal levels, that gold is, richer than silver or bronze. It's how it's been set up since 2014. So what we're really proud of is that we've got quite a variety. We actually have some plans that will have $0 deductibles. So that's awesome because it actually eliminates what has been seen as a barrier to care, sometimes to access to care. Okay, so we've got, those would be, even bronze plans. Now that doesn't mean they're completely free, if you will. There is co-pays, if you will, or co-insurance, but not a huge deductible that you have to meet before you can access care. We also have unlimited primary care and specialty care visits. Again, thinking about wellness and eliminating barriers to care. Those have flat dollar co-pays. You'll see quite a variety of those that we have, not subject to deductible. And also in the era of transparency, which Monique, talked about and reflected on, is that we actually have some services such as MRI labs and x-rays that actually will have flat dollar, think of costs or almost like a copay. So, many times, folks have any of these services done, especially an MRI, you end up getting some huge bill later. You have no idea what the cost is going to be. So we have this up front. So for those services that, the insureds will actually have an idea. Also, this next one, split deductible option, trade-off of drug and medical deductibles. What we mean by that is that we have some plans that actually have richer drug benefits, if you will, with a trade-off with maybe a higher deductible. So again, when you think about your individual needs or your family's needs, that's very important. Some may be on, some maintenance type of prescription meds, and that would be a cost that they have every single month. So again, more predictability and flexibility with the choice that you make. And then HSA stands for Health Savings Account. So those are typically higher deductible plans. We do have one of those as well, and those are that is actually offered off marketplace. All this information would be available to tell you whether it's on or off marketplace, and it's going to show up, on the Colorado Connect Health Exchange. We have a slide here to show you about that. The next slide, this is a feature we wanted to really show here, actually an attribute of the plan. We worked very hard with this, listening to the community and also making sure that we met the needs for mental health. We know there's no year like this one where members and insureds may be utilizing these services and there's more of a need for those. So we did a couple things here. Not only did we, improve, I'd say, increase the capacity of the network, what we did is we actually started talking with mental health providers, and then we actually looked at, again, the reimbursement data. And what we learned is that a lot of the mental health providers weren't in any network because they weren't getting paid much of anything. So a lot of them will be on a cash basis type of a scenario. So what we were able to do here was invite more of them into the network, and we're actually paying higher reimbursement than what they would usually get. We've had a very wonderful reception, very warm reception to this. We're still building out the network. So, any mental health providers that aren't in the network that would like to be, we can share that. Bright is outreaching to trying to reach all of them actually. And many of them were surprised that the amount they'll get reimbursed was similar, if not more in some occasions, to what their cash paying customers were getting. So this is very, very good for all of us. And then we have an unlimited number of visits here. And those are also, flat dollar copays. There's a variety there that you'll see, and not subject to deductible. This is actually a snippet.
A little bit short on time. If you could wrap it up pretty quick. Thank you.
Okay, really quick. Okay, really quick here. So here, this is just a quick snippet of the rates that you'll see. The first two lines are what you're going to see. To see any type of a monthly premium that's less than $300 is actually wonderful to see that. And then we also have, just where the competitors are. So even though their rates are higher, the competitors, those rates have come down a little bit as well. Just from, all of the work I think that we've done, in this whole kind of project here. Connect for Health, this is the online exchange. So if you go there, starting November 1st, you can see the rates yourself. And the point here is that you're going to see Bright Health and also the Southwest Health Alliance logo. That's how you'll know there are products. Also, they should be listed on the first page because they are the lowest rates of any. And so they rank order by the lowest to the highest. So that's good. And also these plans can be used for businesses. So there's more detail to get into with this, but just know that any small businesses or large businesses can actually access these individual products through a health reimbursement account arrangement. It's called ICRA, Individual Coverage Health Reimbursement Arrangement. Basically, in the nutshell with this is that the employer would set up a monthly amount they'd contribute to an individual employee's health reimbursement arrangement, say $300 a month, $250, whatever. There's no limit on what they can provide. And then the individual actually accesses that account and actually goes and buys one of these, any one of the products that they want. It doesn't even have to be a Bright Health product. They can buy any product they want. The employer gets the tax advantage just as they do with group insurance. And more importantly, everyone gets to access these lower costs. So there's a lot more to this, but it's an outstanding feature, and they were just effective in 2020. There is an AnHRA platform that's needed. The brokers are all versed in this, and they can help you through this. We're definitely saying get with your local broker. We can help connect you if you don't have one. And then next steps, the rates are online November 1st through January 15th. That is for individuals. For groups that might want to participate, they can actually go anytime during the year. Again, Connect for Health Colorado. Our big message is talk to your broker right now. Even if you already know of any businesses or yourself, if you already made a decision, say for January 1, you should still look at these because some of the savings are absolutely outstanding. And we're seeing some of these premiums are, less than half of what a group is paying right now. So we're getting a lot of interest from certainly smaller groups.
Yeah, and just to give a little kind of articulation of what that might look like, we asked 2 businesses in La Plata County to give us their census data anonymously. One's a nonprofit with about 5 to 6 employees. The other is a for-profit with 12 employees and then a total of 21 covered with dependents. The nonprofit was going to save somewhere around $10,000 a year, and then the for-profit was somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. So when you start looking at the business community and the economies of scale, every person saving $100, $200 a month, we're talking about significant money that can go back into paying for your mortgage or, buying good local food. So the numbers can't be understated. And then just wanted to thank all of the folks that made this happen. We really couldn't have done this as a nonprofit. Most of the funding that came to us was to help with my time and then to help pay for the Peak Health Alliance, which I would say they say somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000 to just get this up and running. And what they did is they offered this in our community for much less than that, so that we could kind of build on what they'd done. And I appreciate that support that we received from the local governments. And if you would like to be in touch with myself or Nan's a volunteer. She does this out of the goodness of her heart, and because she's excited about healthcare, because I think maybe this has restored some of her faith in kind of what we can accomplish as a community. So she's been just helping businesses and local governments free to just kind of explain what's going on. And I think the last thing that I'll say is, because this is new, the most important thing, we have spent all of this time over the last 2 years really fighting on behalf of the community. And the most important thing that people can do is shop local, is make sure that even though you see, hey, my rates went down, how did that happen, right? Is to try to educate our community so that it's great that the rates went down. Now let's also take a look at what else the community has to offer. The Southwest Health Alliance, Bright Health has a ton to offer, because like any purchasing cooperative, we're only as strong as our members. And so one of the reasons we've prioritized this month talking to all of the local governments is to ask you to help us get this information out to your constituents, to your community. And so if there are any questions, I would love to hear from all of you on what we can do to make sure that the people of Cortez understand what this means when they see the logo. So please tell us like how we can help support you as community leaders and educate people in Cortez.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Monique and Nan. It's definitely something we need to look into, and we'll contact you if we have any more questions about that. And just thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Okay, next item. I'm sorry, Phil, about the delay. Presentation on water issues with Director of Public Works Phil Johnson, Water Superintendent Rich Landreth, Senior Water Operator Randy Hunt, and City Engineer Chad Hill. Okay, go ahead, fellas. Thank you.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
You know, as you're aware, I sent out quite a bit of documentation to you guys earlier this last week, and I just wanted to, you know, reiterate that the preliminary engineering report was basically for your records only. I knew that's a big picture kind of discussion, but we wanted to tee off where we are, why we did it, and what we hope our goals are going to be. And I'm sure we'll be revisiting that in the near future. The risk and resilience and emergency response plan, I wanted Rich to bring you up to date with the work he's been doing to come in compliance with the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. And then the other two items are to discuss are the drought restrictions and then our source water protection plan, which are something that we're going to want to move forward on in January and or February of 2019 and roll out into further meetings. So, Rich, if you'd like to just go ahead and get into the emergency response plan and the risk and resilience report and the compliance issues, and then we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay,
yes.
Thanks. Yes, the report that's in your packet is the risk resilience assessment, and this is a requirement by EPA. Once we have finalized this document, we'll be submitting a certificate. I don't have to submit the actual report. I just have to submit a certification that it's complete. At that point, we'll have 6 months to complete an emergency response plan, which really won't be a problem for us. We actually have an emergency response plan. We'll just need to reformat it into what EPA wants us, their format that they want it in. So this is kind of the first step. We want to be ahead of the game. It's not due until June 30th, but we're not going to wait till the last minute. So it's essentially complete, and certainly I would take any questions that you guys have about this document. Excellent, thank you.
Okay, great. I don't want to talk to them in order. I'd like to touch on the preliminary engineering report with Chad. You know, this was an effort that started in 2018 to try to get an overall health report on our system, and to do so in the engineering format so we would be compliant with lending agencies, to try and do a large construction project over a 5-year period via one lending mechanism or another. And the course has been put on hold for right now, but the work is there, the framework is there. And so I'm just going to go ahead and let Chad speak to this, and we're open to any and all questions. But like I said, this is just to give you an idea of the scope of what we're trying to deal with.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Phil. Okay, like Phil said, back in 18, the city hired us before I was involved in the effort, but produced the preliminary engineering report, which follows a format that's required by rural development in order to access their loan program. And rural development, they loan money all over the state to small communities, rural communities, various sizes. You know, it's a 40-year loan right now. I've been looking into it, and they're like right around 1.5%. They also will tag team with DOLA to bring in grants. So we would be looking at a combination if, you know, if everything was okay to go, a loan and grant approach to it. But essentially what the PER is, the consultant came out and evaluated the water treatment facility. And we provided input, reviews, and what have you. So they looked at the unit processes and considered their condition, how they're operating, and looked at potential upgrades to those facilities. The plant's in great shape. So that's the good news. But there's always, you know, there's old equipment out there. And there's some process efficiencies that could be made and improvements. So that comprises 4 of the major aspects of the PER, if you've had time to read it. And it's in the CIP, that spreadsheet that we have. Then staff, along with the consultant, also looked at the distribution system piping. You know, we looked at what was pre-1960. I mean, you have risk when you have pipe that's that old. A lot of the pipe that's in the southern part of town sits on bedrock. It's shallow, it breaks. It requires repairs, and they always happen on a Sunday or during Christmas, Thanksgiving, what have you. So we looked at breaks. Where have these happened? What types of pipes? Where are they located in the city? So that's a category. Automation to improve operations of the city or of the distribution system, but really to give Randy and Rich access to controls so that they don't have to get up in the middle of the night and go out to a pressure reducing valve station and make adjustments so that the water system continues to operate the way it should. And they have to do that. And some of these modifications, actually, we're going to be looking at them tomorrow with a vendor so that we can move forward on some of these things that are already funded. They're really important. They're not high cost, but they're high value. And so all of that information was consolidated, prioritized over and over. We went through a number of iterations, and we'll do it again because things have already changed, because we didn't build what we thought we were going to build in 2020, for example. So we will take another pass through it quickly. We're all very familiar with the information. And what you will see in that capital improvement spreadsheet, in total for the distribution system improvements of the different priorities over a 5-year time span, it'd be about 50,000 linear feet of pipe that would be replaced for various reasons. And we're also marrying up any pipe work, because most of the pipes are in the streets. So we also have a capital improvements plan for the streets. And those are all meshed together so that if we're going to go into a street or go in and replace a pipe, we're going to look at the street and make sure that, you know, we can combine projects. You know, it's kind of obvious, but it doesn't always happen that way. And so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the distribution system improvements in the spreadsheet. And then on the right side, then there's the water treatment plant improvements. And we've adjusted them. Some of the water tanks and that you see out there, they're 2 million gallons of storage. There's 3 of them. And they're steel and they're holding water. So they need paint, you know, and repairs inside structurally. And that's just part of you know, it's not nothing unusual, but it's important. You just have to keep up with that maintenance because those things are absolutely critical to providing water to the community. And so that's all planned. It's programmed here, and we want to move forward as soon as we possibly can with some of these high priority improvements. And so that's the long answer to what we're doing, but so a plan's in place, I guess, most importantly, to once we can activate and move forward on some of these projects, we're ready to go. Some are already designed. Some of them I designed when I was still with the city. They're ready to go. So it's just a matter of going to construction now.
And so now, as you're all aware, we're in a kind of a financial standstill trying to get our house in order, and we're moving towards that end. But that doesn't mean this plan is no longer viable and we don't want to, you know, pursue it. It's just getting delayed. And right now, we're looking at taking care of 2 of our tank repairs and maintenance out of our fund balance, using our cash flow to pay for them. But that just helps us to reprioritize what we have planned. And like Chad had said, we may be modifying this somewhat by adding some projects to it prior to moving out for a funding effort. And I think that's a really important thing, is that, you know, we look at the bang for the buck, because like many, you know, jurisdictions in America, we're suffering from aging infrastructure. And a $10 million capital improvement project just for the distribution system alone over a 5-year period will get us moving very strongly in the right direction, mainly because we'll be able to take care of, like Chad said, 50,000 linear feet of pipeline improvements, but we'll be using construction money to do that. And during that time frame, you know, we can still build our fund balance with cash. We can augment these projects by doing more work with that cash flow or bank it. So when at the end of this window, you know, we can, you know, not have to have rate increases to absorb debt service increases while we have other other loans that are currently servicing that'll be retiring while we're encumbering this new loan. So, of course, a lot of financial work has to go into this, you know, long-term impacts, and this would tie into other work that we have planned. But I just wanted to get this out in front of you. Like, you can look at the map. It's a really good visual aid to see what's out there and what we're trying to achieve. And this gives you a really good scope of the cost of doing this kind of work. So if there are any questions right now, I don't expect you to have that PER on your belt by any stretch, but, you know, with the visual aid and this spreadsheet, if you guys have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
I do. Great job putting all this together. It is actually somewhat comprehensible for somebody that doesn't know a lot about piping. Just wondering if there's a higher sense of urgency to get the 1950 to 59 piping addressed. I know that we're at a standstill, but is there a health concern for our citizens of Cortez?
No, there's not a health concern related to the pipe. Nothing with the piping materials. And Rich and Randy, they're required to take samples on a monthly basis, send them into a lab, and all those results go to CDPHE. So there's no health risk. It's delivery of service. So I guess you could say, yeah, there's a health risk, because if somebody needs water and they don't have it, or there's a fire or something, you know, is broken and you can't provide service, that's a problem. But no, from a chemical constituent standpoint, no problems.
And, you know, the fact of the matter is that there's some pipe that's really old out there. I mean, there's pipelines in Boston that are over 100 years old. So it's really, although we're targeting dates and materials and diameters of pipe, we're really focusing on areas that are prone to breakage. Like Chad has said, there's a lot of shallow lines on the south side of the city that are in bedrock that weren't installed to, you know, specifications. They didn't have bedding or shading to protect it from the bedrock. And then we have freeze thaw issues. So we're really going after the low hanging fruit, so to speak, and trying to take care of problem areas first.
Right.
Yeah, I have a question on some of these old pipes. I've heard of a process where you can reline the old pipes with a PVC material. Is that something we could look at or think about, or have we done that?
We haven't done it. Yes, you can do that. Some of these pipes, not are they only old, there's many of them that are 4-inch, they're undersized. So in combination with this effort in the PER, I forgot to mention this. Thanks for bringing that up, Mike. We did a hydraulic evaluation. We modeled the water system. Okay, so we went out, we isolated zones within the system, put pressure transducers on hydrants, and then we flowed the hydrants. We looked at pressure drops, okay? And we knew what flow rates we were getting. Then you use that information in the hydraulic model to calibrate it. It calibrated great. So we can now, because of that model, you know, you get a development, say another Brandon's Gate, we can model the system and know, okay, yes, we can provide delivery at this pressure. But when you have a bunch of these small pipes in the older parts of town, 4-inch, they're just undersized. And so, yeah, they're old, they do break, but you wouldn't line a 4-inch pipe.
Right.
Technically, I'm not even sure you could. And a lot of the pipes, so the larger diameters, it's easier, it's done more frequently, but yes, you can reline pipes.
And some good targets would be those transmission lines.
The larger pipes where you don't have a lot of valves and a lot of service connections. So Mike, you think you're going up a street and you're serving 10, 15 houses. When you line it, then you have to go back in and cut through the lining and reconnect those services. Then you have isolation valves, you have hydrants. So, I mean, there's a process, and yes, it is done, but it sounds like it might be really easy. It's not, and it's costly. Everything you do underground is costly.
Right. Thank you.
I have more, this is Medina. I have more of a request than a question.
Okay.
Could it be possible to set up a tour of the waste or the water treatment site? Because personally, I'm a visual person, and I'd be good for us to see the facilities and how they work, and if that's possible.
Well, Rich is muted, so I'll speak. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I wish everybody would go out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
I wish
we're always
Scouts and
happy to
everybody.
give people tours. So
Rachel,
just let me know and we can set it up.
Rachel, when I became on the city council several years ago, I had a tour of the water treatment plant, and it's very eye-opening. It's very interesting to see what's going on out there, and I highly recommend it.
Great.
Okay, so we fully believe, you know, we'll be coming back probably next year sometime, and once we get our financial feet under us to actually try and engage this and look for some direction from council and integrate finance to look at, you know, the impacts or potentialities of what something like this would actually do for us and cost us. So let's move on to the next subject, which would be the conservation plan. And in the packet, you know, I sent out I just put this in here for your edification, the adopted water conservation plan and the cover letter to the Colorado Water Conservation Board, as well as the approval. But the two things that I really want to talk about more importantly is the existing water restrictions ordinance and then a proposed ordinance, which in form it'll change. But actually the goal and the mechanism of it with regards to changes in times and usage of water is really what we want to focus on. So if you're all not aware, you know, we currently have annual restrictions that start on May 15th to go through September 15th, which restricts watering from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days a week. And that's just how it is. But I'm sure you're all well aware of what's been going on with our environmental conditions here and how we've been having really weak monsoons or non-soons, for lack of a better term, and some bad snowpack years. Although we do enjoy the last drop of water coming out of McPhee with other water providers in the area and the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, we have a protected class of water, which is M&I, municipal and industrial. But that doesn't mean that if we have a series of bad years that, you know, we would have all the water that we're used to getting. So we have proposed a change to the restrictions that we want to talk about with you tonight, just to tee off the discussion. I would like to have several conversations with you, not necessarily now. I know we have budget and all that stuff to do. Maybe we can start again in January, but I'd really like to have this thing fine-tuned by February so we can roll it out in some way, shape, manner, or form that you're agreeable to, so we can do a lot of public outreach prior to the restrictions that we're asking for. And what those are is to actually, it's a lot more stringent than what we're currently doing. Excuse me, I'm trying to get that file open. But we think it's for a good reason. And the reason isn't to, you know, we have a lot of water rights. We have 4.2 second feet during the irrigation season, as well as 2,300 acre feet of storage right in the McPhee project. We currently use around 2,000, 2,100 acre feet a year. But the goal isn't to not use that water. It's really to retrain ourselves as a community to use our water more wisely and better. So when a time may come in the future, it might be near or a little distant, that when we have less water to use, our lives, our daily lives are not impacted, that we have already become so efficient at using our water that we can, you know, tighten the belt and be okay and survive, you know, droughts, longer term droughts. I mean, we're in a long-term drought now. They're calling it the millennial drought. It's been going on for 21 years now. And I just want this community to be able to weather if it gets worse. So having that said, what we're proposing is to have the water restrictions mimic the water year, which would begin on April 1st and then on October 31st. This is what that's where our direct stream flow, right, the 4.2 second feet, right, is bookended on April 1st and October 31st. After that, we have to use our entire storage right. We are expanding the non-watering window from 10 to 5 until and starting it at 9 a.m. and going to 6 p.m. because, you know, in the heat of the summer, 5 p.m. is still, you know, pretty much as hot as 2 p.m. in August and July here. It's very hot and dry. And we would also offer that we want to go to even and odd addresses for watering days to mimic the days of the month. So obviously an odd number, you can, odd address can water on odd days and an even address can water on even days. And of course, the prohibitions are mimic the same, which is landscape watering, you know, and then wasting of water, allowing it to flow off your property, washing of vehicles and structures with an open hose and the like. So I know that's a lot to you know, consider what we're dealing with now versus what we're proposing. So I would like to, you know, Rich, you can chime in on this, offer anything you want, but I feel like this is going to, you know, spur some discussion. So I'd like to stop talking and let anyone say anything they would like to add or questions.
Phil, I have a question. Are we still going to have like rebates on water efficient toilets and dishwashers and appliances like that?
We have that funded in our conservation program, yes, sir. And you know, this year it really ground to a halt because of COVID-19. And you know, we used to do a lot of the public outreach that we had done successfully last year, but we really did not engage that much this year because of the, you know, the access and restrictions to, you know, homes and just interaction with people. But yes, the incentives will exist.
Okay.
Bill, I have a question. How compliant has the city been in, let's say, the last 2 seasons on the watering restrictions?
Well, from what I've seen, I feel like very compliant, although there have been occasions where people are driving around and you do see somebody watering outside of that window, but it's very far and few between. I would say that, we have a solid a solid A for the entire city with compliance to our existing standards, sir.
Good. Thank you.
I have a question about the rates and how much you charge for usage. Have you thought about having like an increased rate after a certain amount of water used, or would that affect bulk sales to the tribe and Blue Door?
Well, all right, first, the tribe and Blue Door have a contract with us that based on treatment costs and for the Ute tribe, because we're treating their water. So they pay for us just for the mechanism of us treating it and making it potable and safe. Blue Door does pay a component of our water storage fees and operation and maintenance for conveying that raw water from McPhee to us. So that's different than, I understand what you're saying, but that would not be affected by an increasing block rate is what you're speaking to. And, one of the things that we had wanted to do was get a rate study done. But, again, pending our financial work being completed, we really can't engage that currently, because I have reached out to the University of North Carolina Finance Center, and they will take they'll take 5 years of data for us, look at our usage, look at our audits, look at our current rate structure, look at our fund balances, and help us move towards that end. Because, ideally, while that is a good idea, because oftentimes when you have a conservation program that's really successful, you hurt yourself with regards to revenue. But a really important component of that, and John and Rich and I and Chad and Randy spoke about this, before we went on vacation, is that block of water, that living block of water is what I call it, is affordable to everybody. It's, might be 4,000 gallons per residence per month, whatever that case is, whatever that vets out to be, that everybody in this community can afford that. And it's not a choice of, pay the water bill or you put gas in my car kind of thing. So there's that component that we want to be cognizant of as well. Mike, did you have a question?
Well, it wasn't a question. It was just Phil and I've started to chat about what it would take to get this implemented, between the enterprise and the city ordinances. And we started looking at other places and how they're doing it, especially the enforcement. That might be one of the more troublesome areas in my experience. And I was gunning for scheduling, say, January 1st or second meeting in January to have a suite of ordinances for you on this, with second reading in February. It's more than just one ordinance. It's also an opportunity to update everything we have on water. So there would be a big, I love this word, omnibus ordinance coming to you that would handle all the water scenarios that we need to address. Because, for example, rates are done by the enterprise and some of the other things, but yet there are some city ordinances about enforcement and how we'd handle the violations, et cetera. We'll be, like I say, we'll get ordinances from other places and policies from other places, so we're not walking into this blind.
So again, I just wanted to introduce this to you all, so you can look at it. As always, we're always open and available for discussion and or, any of your questions that you have. We all just wanted to tee this off with the group. So it was just on your radar.
Yeah, I appreciate that, giving it a, some notice on everything on this, but it's quite a bit of info there, and it's pretty good info. But the only thing is the water restrictions things, but I can understand where you're coming from. It's been pretty dry out here these days, so.
Yes, sir, it has. Yeah. And it's really, like I said, it's not about, coming into close to redlining our water rights. It's just about getting better about how we use it and how we live. So if it gets worse, our quality of life won't change. So thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so I'm gonna just tee this off, and again, Rich can speak to it. This is the source water protection plan. And I believe this started about 10 years ago, Rich, with a lot of the water providers in the area that used McPhee, but then it just fell flat. And so Rich reached out and got some resources for us, and he worked on just getting our plan done. And what I would like to do is eventually just share this plan out with all the other providers that do source their water out of McPhee as a template, and then they can just use their data and come up with their own plan that, you know, is basically the same because we all share the same watershed. So I'll just hand it off to Rich. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Well, you're correct. This has been going on for about 10 years. So we definitely want to complete this plan. I've been working on it for a couple of years, actually. And we've gone through multiple meetings with the public. And I think what we have is a pretty good, you know, kind of a base plan. This is a living document. It's going to change constantly. So we'll plan on updating it on a regular basis. And there's a lot in here. So I'm guessing you guys haven't had a chance to read through this, but certainly we're very open to a good inspection of this and any questions that you might have, so that we can, you know, make this a better document before we go out. I'd like to put it out to the public fairly soon. You know, this is a draft right now. I'd like to go out and try to finalize this thing by the first part of 2021, if we can. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but I'd certainly take any questions that you might have at this point.
Mike, you're muted.
Okay, I have a question, Rich. The aquatic nuisance, the mussels, have we gotten a handle on that in our local reservoirs?
We do. DWCD is doing a really good job. You know, they're in cooperation with the state, and yes, we feel really good about our program. And you know, I haven't seen any statistics for this year yet, but we've got a meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks, I think it is. So if you'd like, I can report back to you on that.
Yeah, I'd like to see more about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Rich, I have a question. Are you still participating then in the Dwarf Collaborative meetings?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I took this plan to Dwarf and got lots of comments. Some of the comments were fairly specific to reports and studies that we've done as Dwarf. So I think you'll see in the document that I just refer to those instead of trying to pull them into this document. Because they're pretty big documents.
Could you explain Dwarf for those with us that don't know about it?
It's it is the local forestry collaborative that we have formed to talk about the water health. It's mostly about McPhee Reservoir. It's our it really dovetails a lot with our source water protection plan. As you may or may not know, there's, you know, the whole area has gotten a lot of money, potentially has some money for some forestry work. That's what we're working on right now mainly. But everything that we do in the forest helps our reservoir and helps our water source. And so that's why we participate fully, and I'm at every meeting. I'm not sure if I answered your question though.
I think Dwarf's just an acronym for some.
It's the Dolores
watershed.
It's the
Resilient.
It's the Dolores Watershed and Resilient Forest Collaborative.
Okay.
That's what it,
Thank you, Rich.
sure.
Thank you.
that was it in the, in a nutshell. There was another file folder I had sent you all, and that was regarding the VCAPS work we had done with Western Water Assessment. I'd sent you the overall report as well as the executive report. This is what really teed off our Water is Our Future work that we're doing with, with regards to conservation, community engagement. This was really a broad spectrum approach with regards to, we had a team of council members, staff, appointed personnel, Parks and Rec, marketing, public works, water, planning and building. And we just took we looked at two scenarios. One is a 1-year severe drought scenario. Another one is long-term. And so that's what really has spurred what I believe is, our really good effort for Water's Our Future, as well as requesting these water restrictions. We did a lot of public engagement. We had several workshops at local greenhouses. We've participated at Third Thursdays when we had them. We had a lot of training sessions. Parks and Rec, Mark Boblet did different types of demonstration grasses over at the police station, as well as some irrigation workshops at the rec center, and all of the demonstration plots that they already have in place with regards to xeric landscaping at city buildings, as well as in our medians. So, it's a lot to get your head around, but that's why we wanted to talk to you now while we had a breather, and hopefully we can talk more about this in January and February. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. Like I was telling the guys when we met a week and a half ago, that I've been doing this for 32 years, and just talking about this stuff still gets me excited. So I look forward to engaging you all on this, and I would like to come back maybe in January and talk about streets in this kind of a broad analysis and overview, so you can get up to speed with that. And it won't be as encompassing as this, because of all the dynamics in water treatment, from raw water to taking care of our customers. But it's a pretty big picture kind of thing, and I just want to provide this information to you so you can get educated and tell us what to do with an educated fashion. So if there are any other questions, I guess that's all I have to offer. Anybody? Rich, Chad, Randy?
Yeah, Phil, I had a comment. I really enjoyed being on that VICAP team. It's very informational, and learned a lot, and a lot of information out there, a lot of practical things that we can use, in our home and in our community. And I really commend you for being part of that. And it was really a great process. And I thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I hope to, reinvigorate that next year if we have these restrictions lifted. I know that the people from Western Water Assessment, specifically Seth Aarons, the climate scientist, the climate scientist from Utah, wants to come back and provide us with a presentation, because he spoke about, what I liked about his presentation, he spoke specifically about the Dolores River watershed. Right. And the impacts and implications of long-term and short-term droughts. So this is really exciting stuff, and I look forward to talking to you guys more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have any more of your presentation, Phil or Rich? Okay. Well, thank you. It was a great, informative study. I got a hold of the notebook that you guys put together, and it's about 3 inches thick. It's a lot of information in there, and a lot of great pictures. It's all on digital too, but really appreciate you guys, keeping up with our water concerns. And it's really important, especially in this drought that we're in. And we just have to, keep on, conserving our water. And it's one of the most precious commodities we have around here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, if anyone would like a hard copy of that, just let Linda know, and we'll get it put together for you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the team? David? No?
Are we moving on to the general council discussion, or where are we right now before I pose my question?
I guess if we're done with the water issues, we can move on to the general council discussion. Are there any other comments about the water issues? Seeing none. Okay. Next item on our agenda is the general council discussion. David, did you have some input?
I have a question for the council. I don't know how appropriate this is, but I'm really been pondering how we could avoid the some of the things that happened at the last meeting. And if I'd like to know what you all think, or what we might possibly do to eliminate this in the future.
Do you have some comments in particular, David? Or some issues about the last meeting?
Yes, I do. It's my understanding that at council meetings, people need to have permission to speak if they're in the audience. And when they're at the podium, they have a time limit, and they can't ask other people to dialogue with them. Just general things that really parliamentary procedure, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, David. There's definitely room for improvement in this. We're still kind of learning our way. Young council here, young mayor in time, and being a mayor, not young in age, but we do need to pay attention to our parliamentary procedures and the number of minutes that one can speak, and speaking out of turn. And I thank you for bringing that to our attention. And it's something we'll definitely, pay more attention to in the future. Thank you, David.
Do you think it would help if we started, before we started public comments section of the agenda, we just remind the audience to be respectful, to be cognizant of the time limit, just kind of set some ground rules every time, just to remind folks, that we are providing an opportunity for public comment, but they need to be respectful about it.
Absolutely. I agree, Rachel. But I might add, based on previous events, again, I think there should be consequences put forth along with that, because some people don't react to just the rules as per se.
Could we specifically outline, and thank you, David, for opening this. I think getting a feeling of respect and civil participation is amazing and a great concept, and we need to get there. Should we kind of contour this a bit more towards the Zoom fashion, as we're about to go into that? We don't have a lieutenant in arms present, but that, I guess, as far as if there's citizen comment this evening, will Bill be in charge of muting, or how can that be addressed?
The mayor is in charge of the meeting, and so the mayor should tell Bill to mute somebody if they violate. One other comment I would have is, I think one of the problems that was referred to was responding to the comments or some form of that. I would caution council to getting into dialogues with people who are presenting, because that's a dangerous area. It causes some of the problems that we experienced last time, giving people power, and they take it and run. I think it's, you know, it's just a chance for them to say what they think needs to be said and thank them and let them go. Beyond that, we take risks at creating, you know, I guess escalating situations.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Appreciate that input.
I think
does this
one last, I mean, one comment from me, just kind of in relation to this, like, I think we should also be cognizant of how we word agenda items. Just because of a couple of items that have been worded seem to just create contention just by the way they were worded. So I think we need to be cognizant of like how we write down agenda items.
Good point.
Thank you, Arlena. Appreciate it. Okay.
Are we ready to move on to the next discussion?
Yeah. Amy, do you have an item?
Yeah, I'd just like to welcome Robert. We're, not in the full meeting just yet, and it's great to see your face on here. And thank you for fulfilling the 7th seat on our council, and welcome aboard.
I second that. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you.
Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to serving with all of you, and it's been interesting going from, oh, it's going to be a meeting in person to the right day of it goes to a Zoom and all that. So, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of digging in and working with you all over the next year and a third or so.
We're all looking forward to, Robert. Thank you. Are there any more items to discuss?
I'd like to bring up Halloween since that's coming up this Saturday. I think we just need to talk about, so, the governor came out with rules or an executive order, I don't know what to call it, about restricting gatherings again to 10 people and no more than 2 households. So I guess maybe just want to remind the community to be respectful. And if you are going to trick or treat, if a house doesn't want trick or treaters, they should have their lights off. There are some Halloween events going on, but I would say double check that they're still happening because some may have been canceled with the new restrictions. But yeah, I think just make sure to keep social distancing and kind of respect the rules while still trying to enjoy the holiday. So I don't know if anyone else has.
Yep.
I'll add on to that. If you still want to participate, there are a couple of events going on around town that are purely virtual, but you can, I believe, the one at the Pinion Project, they provide the supplies and then you kind of participate through Zoom at home. So they're having a virtual Zoom event, and Monteloris Early Childhood Council is also doing a virtual Zoom event. So some options for you folks if you don't want to go out and participate in person.
I think we just basically have to use common sense, and maintain the proper cautions. This pandemic is still with us, and the numbers are increasing, so we just can't let down our guard, and we just have to keep ourselves safe and keep our neighbors safe. Thank you for bringing that up, Rachel and Arlena. Any other comments?
I have one more. I had a constituent reach out talking about barking dogs, and her neighbor has barking dogs. Does anybody have any resources that I could point her in the direction of helping her deal with that?
Animal control of the police office or the police department.
Yes.
She's an excellent resource, the animal control officer.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you, John.
Okay, any other comments or issues for discussion? Seeing none, I adjourn this city council workshop, and the regular council will convene at 7:30. Thank you.